Recently, I made a video where I talked about how you don't have forever to be able to put out music. There's a deadline, whether you realize it or not, and most people struggle with when to be finished, when to call something done. So as a result, they keep tweaking it, editing it, and they just wind up producing a significantly less amount of work than they could if their filter was more relaxed. Here's somebody's comment, and I think this may echo what some of you are thinking, so I wanted to reply to it in a video. They wrote, this is I don't know how to say their name here, but it's Glickmathon1771. It's a good comment. They wrote great points. However, I cringe now knowing some of the crappy demos I gave just to a few friends and family over the years. My quality control standard is higher now, and I'd rather put out fewer songs I'm really happy to circulate forever than to put out more that I regret later. Prince is a great example of someone writing and recording daily with a huge catalog that was never released. I like these discussions. Thank you. So we're going to continue this discussion a little bit in reply to your comment. I think it's very, very important to note we would not know Prince's name if he didn't force himself to finish things. If you think he was always happy with everything he ever released, happiness is momentary. You could love it one day and hate it the next. And how many of us wind up making something that we think is great, and then we sit on it for 2-3 days, and then the third day we hate it. So if you think he was happy with everything he released afterwards, I think you're sorely mistaken there. That's not the case. We grow every day as people. We change, we evolve, we grow. That's why it's so important to work quickly, because when you're working quickly, the same person you are the day you record or you write something, same person you are when you write it is the person you are when you record it. It's the person you are when you put it out. And the more time that goes by, the more your perspective will change on the world, on life, on yourself, on how you view relationships, on how you view love, on how you, whatever the topic is that you're writing about. You can't possibly make something of great importance and have no point of view. You're going to be imparting your point of view on what you make. And as your point of view changes, as you evolve, as you grow, so will your opinion of what you thought whenever you created what you created. So this concept here about, you'd rather not cringe at the stuff you gave people years later, like the demos you gave that you're not happy with. Why do you care what they think of you? Or why do you care what you think of you way back then? Either way, you shouldn't. The reason you shouldn't is because I guarantee you, nobody that you handed those demos to that don't sound as good as maybe you are today, nobody cares. We have this weird thing that we think everyone cares as much about our lives and ourself and how good we are. We think that everyone cares as much as we do. You're wrong. Nobody cares more than you do. These people you handed stuff to, that basically, if anything, if they feel any way at all about it, they feel close to you, that you were willing to share something with them. That makes them feel like you trust them. That makes them feel close to you. Doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. They're not judging you like that. I guarantee it. Nobody can look at something and say, this thing sucks, so this person forever sucks. That's not what they're saying. And they're not saying, look at how bad this person was. You realize, have you seen the Ed Sheeran thing where he's on Jimmy Fallon, or I forget which talk show it was, but he's playing a recording of him before he knew how to sing, and he plays it for everybody watching the show and the whole audience. And I mean, there's probably millions of views on that clip. So now so many people hear him sounding terrible before he ever did anything. How much do you think that hurts Ed Sheeran? It doesn't. How many great artists out there have stuff before they were great and nobody cares. We have this weird false impression that no matter what we do, we have to safeguard our image and we have to protect the fact that, like, if people see how bad we are, if people see us without any of the gloss, without any of the improvements, without any of us editing, without any of the perfection, if people see that, we're worried that's going to ruin our future. It doesn't matter. No one cares enough to go digging for stuff from the past, and you know how I know? Because I guarantee you every artist that ever made it has that stuff, and how many of it how many times have we heard those things? We don't. They're not nobody knows, and you could say, "Well, it's because of the internet or because of the phone." Because of the phone or because of the no it's no we don't have those back then. It's like, you'd have to have a cassette, and it was a whatever, or before cassettes. I don't know what you're thinking, but in my head, I could come up with all the excuses why somebody might think it's worse today than then. It's not. Nobody cares about that stuff, because once you achieve something, once you put out enough of your stuff into the world to achieve something, once listen here, once you free yourself from the idea that must be perfect, once you free yourself from the thought that you won't be constantly improving, which means you're always worse in the past than you are in the future, always. Once you free yourself from the thought that you're embarrassed or ashamed of handing demos out, once you free yourself from that, the world will actually get to see who you really are on a daily basis. They'll get to see as much as you can possibly put out. Because that's the other thing here. You could say Prince had a catalog of stuff that was never released. You know how many things he did release? But Prince was also bound and held to contracts for a long time, meaning he was forced to release things. And here I have a whole theory on this. I know myself, when I was younger, it was so easy to sit down and write music, because there was something about, like, just the hope or the brand newness of everything, like feeling brand new about a chord progression or about a thought process or, a lyrical, play on word, or just feeling good. And the fact that it was new and fresh, I think, had something to do with it. In other words, you hadn't done it a million times yet. You hadn't done it 1,000 times. You hadn't done it a couple hundred. So because it was so new, every line you wrote felt like it could be something that goes somewhere extremely far that the world could appreciate as a result of that feeling that you have when you're young. As a result of that, because everything's so new and fresh, you actually have more confidence, where you're more prone to release things. Let's not forget, Prince started releasing music when he was in his teens. So you can't, like, I don't understand how you don't realize that there was a large portion of that time period, especially, where he felt so free. And not only that, he got himself in the habit of releasing things. He actually worked that muscle. It's a muscle. That's what I also think people kind of they try to ignore. If you get in the habit of checking yourself for, 3, 4, 5 days before you release anything, that's a habit. You're building that muscle. And then, like somebody else mentioned, a great comment, that we basically grow to the size of the tank we're in. If we force, like a fish, if we force ourselves to get things done in a timely fashion, we will get things done. If we allow ourselves forever, then we will take forever. And I think right there, that's the same thing. Taking forever is the same thing as literally making sure it's as great as possible so that we're not embarrassed when we put it out. Anyone who's ever done that, myself included, it's still not exactly what you want after you put it out, no matter how long you spend on it. I've never actually released something that I was super happy with on the day I released it, and then 5 years later or more, been super happy with it. I don't know who has. So, like, I just don't. I mean, maybe somebody has. I'm sure some people probably have a way more relaxed filter than I do. Maybe they have. But, I'm reminded of conversations I used to have with people where they'd be like, "I love this song you did," and they'd play a thing from my band's, like, basically first album that we recorded in a real studio. with my band Real Be Easies. Basically they'd hear that and they'd go, "Wow, man, I love this song. Like this song is amazing." And like I can't even like, how did you write that? And I think to myself, I don't even like that song. Like what? I can't believe they do. And it's like I loved it when I wrote it, when I recorded it, and then a year or two later I didn't. Why is that? Because I'm evolving and I'm changing, and what I once liked, I don't love anymore, which is very similar, I think, to what people experience when they go out and they have a hit song. They're forced to like it. They're forced to like it. And because it might generate them money and because it makes other people's lives feel great because maybe they connect with the song, that song almost like nestles a permanent place in their mind and heart where they force themselves to keep loving it or to keep, because they got no choice because everybody else loves it. So it must be great. So it just compounds on itself within their own head that this is a great thing. And I must accept it. I must accept that it was great. But if no one ever heard those songs, or very few people, and no one ever really liked them, I don't think that artist would feel the same way about those songs 20 years later. Not necessarily. And even the artists that do have songs that everyone loves, some of them can't stand them years later. You know, I'm very reminded of like Bullet with Butterfly Wings. That's a Smashing Pumpkins song that Billy Corgan wrote as a joke, as satire, pretty much, because he was giving the record companies the song they wanted. And he hated it. And it's the song that the crowd still go crazy for. And he would have never really wrote that if he was just trying to do him. And if he allowed himself, if nobody ever heard it and nobody ever liked it and Smashing Pumpkins never took off, do you think he'd keep playing that song? Do you think that would be a song he'd put on for people and be proud of? I don't think so. So all I'm saying is there's so many facets to this, and we could easily hold ourselves back from ever releasing that song that people could really like, that might, save lives because of how much it connects with them. And we could think it's satire and it's terrible and it's a joke and never put it out, and that we're embarrassed by it, or that we can't believe we let our friends hear. We could think all those things, and we would never, ever, ever touch all those people's lives. So, my theory is you are lucky to be alive. You're lucky to be a creative person. So many people can't write songs. They can't hear melodies in their head. And if you can, you're one of the lucky ones. So how could you squander that? Self-doubt, embarrassment, everyone else's feelings creeping into their head, wondering if people are going to like it. How could you squander it from something that's common to every single person in the world? Don't let those things that everyone experiences stop you from being the special person that you are, who's a creative person, who's different than so many other people. While you can, share all of it, because none of that stuff you release is ever going to hurt you, ever. But what will hurt you is never truly expressing yourself, everything you have to say, everything you write. In my opinion, that's way worse. Because is it a good thing that Prince died with an entire vault of music and artwork from a mind as creative and amazing as he was? It always kind of struck me as like, I don't know what it is, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist of any kind, but someone who was as brilliant as Prince, I'm surprised. I'll just say I'm surprised that he didn't put something that says, upon my death, every piece of artwork I've ever made is going to be released to the public. And I get kind of choked up thinking about it. Because there's so much stuff in there that no one's ever going to get to see or hear. There's footage, there's music, there's brilliant works. And I don't believe he thinks that we are all better off without it. Man, I hate being a friggin' softie. But shit like that, that's the shit that hurts me a lot, honestly. It's like we would all be better off if someone had this conversation with him. I bet it would have got through. I bet he wouldn't have said something selfish like, that stuff's not meant for them. I just made it because I wanted to make it. It's for me. I bet he wouldn't have said that. We'll never know. It's a shame we'll never know. Because, man, he probably had a lot of amazing shit in there. And it could have saved lives. It could have probably touched a lot of people's souls. It could have helped people get through hard times. It could have, I mean, who knows what it could have done. And I think that's, got to get my shit together here. I think that's humanity in a nutshell, right there. It's that even someone as talented as Prince still might allow something like, the fact that he didn't have enough time to finish more things. Something like, it's humanity. We don't have all the time in the world. How much of that he would have eventually released if he wound up living to 100? Who knows? And I believe that he would have eventually, he would have had the time to put out a significant portion of it, if not all of it. And boy, would we have had more art in the world that was great. Because one thing you can't deny, not everybody likes every song Prince has ever written, but that doesn't matter. If you like one of them, then he was somebody who helped you in this world. If you like one of them, and there's plenty that I love. So you never know what everyone's going to like. And I'm of the mind that all it takes is one person to reach you, to allow you to think about what I'm saying on a deep level. And then you'll care about something bigger than what you care about now. Because that's what it takes. It's actually from The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. I never read that whole book, but it wasn't bad, the parts that I did read, and I could tell you it was pretty good. A big takeaway is the way that you care less, that you subtly don't give an F. The way that you do that is by caring about something bigger, something more important. That means the way you care about, the way that you shouldn't care as much about how embarrassed you are, about the way you cringe about people thinking that you're not good or whatever, the way you care about any of that is not as important as what that could do for somebody, that work, that artwork you're creating, whatever it is. If you just care about the fact that maybe it's worth something, it's valuable to them, maybe you'll care a little less about how cringy you feel. Because feelings are temporary. They're not even truth. They're not facts. They're feelings. And the way you feel shouldn't stop what you know. And what do you know? You know that if you release less things, you have less of a chance. None of those things you release, no matter how bad they are going to stop people from loving you if you release some good stuff in there. And that's how I look at it. It's not going to stop the good stuff from being great. So you might as well release all the stuff, because I know that if you do that, you have more of a chance. You have more of a chance of somebody latching onto something and having it mean something to them if you release everything. Then if you pick and choose and you wait a year and we'll come back to it later, don't live like that, because eventually you may go with a vault full of stuff. Leave a comment, hit the like button. Subscribe. Evan Jaffe Custom Cut Studios. You guys got this.